Bum 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 bum. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Hello. How y'all doing today? Here we are, Canadian Commie. We're streaming. This is just going to be a casual stream, this one. I can feel it. It's New Year's Eve, December 24th, 2024. Christmas is tomorrow. And what better Christmas gift could we all have than celebrating together the shooting of a CEO? Boom, boom. Long Defiant, good to see you. Best wishes to you. Anemone, good to see you. And Anemone lighting up my Discord on fire constantly. Good to see you, Anemone. Uh, yeah, I feel like one of the things that I've really noticed over this last week, and I think that everybody is really noticing it, is there has been a almost instantaneous and dramatic culture shift. That the assassination of Brian Thompson has instantly changed people's view of their own society and their own culture. And it's gotten so obvious that even the wealthy are starting to notice. Oh, well, Long Defiant with a $5 donation. That's very kind of you. Thank you, friend. Anemone says, is it Merry Christmas Eve that you say I've forgotten? Yeah, I would have forgotten too. I had forgotten, in fact. But, the society insists we're going to celebrate Christmas. It's never been a holiday for me. I have no idea what people are talking about. Yeah, as a Muslim, I don't say Merry Christmas much, to be honest. Yeah, I know Happy Holidays has become the thing, right? Everybody says Happy Holidays. Well, Happy Holidays. Although I have no idea, is there what's the Muslim holiday around here, around this time? I have no idea. Like, I know there's Hanukkah, and there's Kwanzaa. Do the Muslims have a December 25th holiday anywhere? Well, whatever that is, a very a good aid to you changes every year. Okay. All right. I'm learning something. And hey, there is a story that came out. I want to start today's stream with this story because this story really encapsulates, really captures the moment, right? Really just everything about this story just screams yeah, welcome to America, welcome to North America. Texas Representative Kay Granger, 81, who missed 6 months of key House votes, found living at a retirement community that specializes in memory care. Isn't that a nice, soft-handed way of saying that she was found in a dementia hospital? Yeah, you read that headline right. An elderly Texas member of Congress who has been seemingly missing from the Capitol for 6 months is now living in a retirement community that specializes in memory care. And even her family acknowledges that she's exhibited possible signs of dementia. Longtime Republican Representative Kay Granger, 81, has not cast a vote in Washington, D.C. since July, despite the GOP's super slim majority in the chamber. Questions about Granger's health caused massive uproar after the Dallas Express, which was founded by one of her political opponents, reported on Friday that she was living full-time in a memory care unit and was moved there until after she was found wandering her neighborhood. Granger did not run for re-election in November, but her disappearance is especially significant given the tiny majority Republicans hold in the House and the massive votes that are taking place, including the government spending bill, in the waning days of her tenure. However, her son told the Post that claim was a load of bull, BS, and that she was moved into a condo in an independent living community because she was getting bored and lonely in her Fort Worth appointment. 3 sources close to Granger, including her son Brandon, her current spokesperson, and another source familiar, have denied to the Post that she is living in the memory care unit. Her son was coy with the Post about whether she received care from that unit. They have a memory care facility there, but she's in an independent living facility. It's a nice condo. I helped her move in, Brandon Granger said. So I'm just going to cut to the chase on this. Sounds to me like this woman, Kay Granger, right? has dementia, was wandering around, right? Was wandering around, got picked up by some nurses because they were like, you look like you belong in the dementia ward, and they put her there. And everybody just kind of went along with it, including Kay herself. Oh, Gabriel, good to see you. Gabriel comes in saying, we need Marksmiths. Yeah. A Merry Marksmiths to all of you. New CIA drone pilot over on Twitch. Good to see you. Merry Consumption Day, John. Yeah, that's why I don't really celebrate Christmas too much. It's just like, it's just consumerism. It's straight up like capitalism runs on Christmas, right? Most retail outlets don't make any money until December, right? They don't make any money until December. And then and then December is when they get into the black. And why? Because it's Christmas. And everybody goes and spends a whole lot of money. That all it really would take to collapse the system of capital is if everybody just stopped buying stuff for Christmas. Like if everybody just stopped celebrating Christmas, that would be the end of capitalism. They would not be able to recover. Like and if a business doesn't go into the black from December, they just close up. That's it. That's the end of them, right? So my position has been for decades, frankly, is that we should all stop celebrating Christmas. We shouldn't get sucked into it. We should not exchange gifts. We should not buy anything for one another. Like, you can exchange gifts all you like, but just stop buying garbage from Amazon, right? For the sake of fulfilling the societal obligation. And that would do it. That would crater the whole thing. Long Defiant writes, America, where the votes are made up and the representatives don't matter. Yeah. Austin, good to see you. How's it going? Just want to say Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you too, Austin. Anemone, how many more tumbles can McConnell take before they replace him? Yeah. Like, as long as he keeps standing up and voting down healthcare and, like, voting down anything that would benefit anybody for any reason whatsoever. Eggs D, good to see you. Oh, well, listening in from a cottage, no less. That's true dedication, Eggs D. Thank you so much. Long Defiant writes, McConnell is beat to hell. Have you seen his massive bruises? Yeah, poor, evil, evil man guy. Yeah, I have no sympathy whatsoever for him. I remember when he first had, like, a health concern because he was just standing there and then he stopped talking and, like, stared off. And I think my favorite comic I saw of that is that it was him and he was talking and then he stopped and he stared off, and then there was the Grim Reaper standing there and everybody was like, Mitch, are you okay? And he's just like staring at the Grim Reaper, staring back at him. Yeah, it'll be a good day. It'll be a good day when death claims Mitch McConnell. It'll be fine. Isaac writes, Coca-Cola popularized Christmas. I don't think it was Coca-Cola that popularized Christmas, but they definitely popularized Santa Claus. That the Santa Claus, the modern idea that we have of Santa Claus is a creation of Coca-Cola for sure. like the red and the white trim and the big beard, and even the like getting on the sleigh with the reindeer, right? All of that was a marketing push done by Coca-Cola in order to sell Coca-Cola. Like it, and it's just like, because America has no culture, because it's this like empty, vapid shell of a, like, it's just like a bunch of corporations in a trench coat, basically. That became the cultural touchstone, and that became what everybody like sort of related to and rallied around. Like a society with a real culture wouldn't have been like, okay, cool, that's a nice little fun little mascot you have, and then would have moved on and forgotten about it. But instead, it's like, nope, that's Santa now. That's like one of the most important mythological cultural touchstones for our society now. Okay, cool. But like, I would argue that Charles Dickens did a lot more to popularize Christmas. Like, Christmas used to be just like another work day, right? It used to be considered another, just like Valentine's Day or something like that, where like, sure, it's a day, or like Halloween, right? Sure, it's a day, but like, go to work, right? And because we live in an industrialized capitalist hellhole, and you can read or watch any of the iterations of A Christmas Carol, right? Charles Dickens writes the story The Christmas Carol specifically to criticize this kind of hard-nosed capitalist system that he was writing and living in at the time. And Ebenezer Scrooge is just like the perfect figure to embody the kind of soulless, empty pursuit of wealth that is emblematic of capitalism. And and it was because of A Christmas Carol, and I mean, amongst other reasons, of course, but A Christmas Carol was a big cited reason for why people started to take that day off, and it became a bigger holiday. Is because of the story of Ebenezer Scrooge and Charles Dickens, and that there was this sort of, there came to be this understanding that, hey, like, capital's great and all, but like, maybe we should have days to actually celebrate time with our families and our loved ones, and maybe it shouldn't always be 100% all about money. And now, of course, Christmas has been co-opted to be a corporate capitalist money-making venture, to the degree that if we all were to stand up and actually say, yeah, I'm not going to buy any crap, like, I'm not buying any of this shit, any of this like Chinese made or Taiwanese trash. Like, I walk down the street and I'm literally like, there's literally like blow up doll Santa Clauses. Like, I don't know how anybody walks around thinking that this is like, who are the people that are putting this shit up? Like, for real, and you can quote me on this. If you're putting a blow up Santa, like a Santa like inflatable or some kind of inflatable out in front, you are the worst person alive. Not the worst person alive, but just like, don't do that, please. Like, does it have to be so gaudy? Does it have to be so gauche? Does it have to be such trash? Uh yeah, XD, they appropriated a bunch of pagan traditions, of course. Anemone says, so what you mean to say is we should all celebrate Id. How am I pronouncing this? EID. I don't know how to pronounce this. They're trying to do that to Ed, but it's way harder to do. Well, I mean, it's tough to appropriate Islamic culture because Muslims are in a position where they feel like they need to be very protectionist. Eid, thank you. They feel like they need to be pretty protectionist. Like, Christianity is basically like a parody of itself at this point. Like, it's just like, there's no such thing as a Christian. Like, they hate their Christ so badly. Whereas Muslims actually respect Muhammad and are trying to uphold their values, right? So, it's easier for us or it's easier for Christians rather, to allow their figures to be bastardized and blasphemized, and for heresy to be all over the place, and for Jesus Christ to essentially become a cartoon character version of himself, because they don't actually care about him. right? Like, there's no such thing as a Christian that cares about Christ. That doesn't exist. Like, I would argue that secular people who would consider themselves agnostic or atheist value and care more about Christ than anybody that claims to be a Christian. So the whereas Muslims are like, no, Muhammad, right? And that's why they won't allow Muhammad to be represented in imagery or any of that kind of stuff, because they know where that leads, right? They know that it's like you're just doing that so you can sell a little icon and make some money, right? We understand that. Anyway, yeah, Isaac, I stopped celebrating Christmas about 15 years ago. Yeah, me too, bud. Like, I don't really like. I mean, I get the base reason why people like it. Get together with family, like have some time together, exchange some gifts. It's all very lovely, right? But like when I was a kid, I immediately, like, the second I got into university, I was just like, "Oh, this is just a trash can holiday to sell garbage to everybody." Okay. We're all just going to go along with it. Oh, okay. Bread Bunny, good to see you. It's been quite a while since I've heard any update on Western war fronts or Luigi. Oh yeah, dude. So there's a reason why they don't really want you to hear anything about Luigi, because the story that they're trying to tell you um, is this story, right? And I was planning on reading this article, so now's as good a time. Baldy, good to see you. The Goat, good to see you too. Homeland Security Secretary says Luigi Mangione discourse is full of narratives of hate. Video. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is concerned about rhetoric on social media that supports accused CEO shooter Luigi Mangione, who is currently imprisoned in New York. We've seen narratives of hate. We've seen narratives of anti-government sentiment online, Mayorkas told Face the Nation host Margaret Brennan Sunday. We've seen personal grievances in the language of violence. Accompanying or being part of those narratives is something that we're very concerned about. That is a heightened threat environment, he continued. I still am alarmed, though, by the heroism that's being attributed to an alleged murderer of a father of 2 children on the streets in New York City. So just straight up mask off, right? Like, Brian Thompson is a mass murdering psychopath. Like, and there's no reason to discuss it any other way. This whole, like, father of 2 rhetoric, as if psychos can't also have children, right? Like, Brian Thompson was murdering people for money. There's no other reason to discuss him any other way. And to pretend as though he wasn't doing it is to just be a Nazi, right? Like this guy is. This is the thing, is that what we are experiencing right now and what we are seeing right now is a true mask-off Nazi moment. That the power structure can't actually say out loud, oh yeah, like Brian Thompson was doing some pretty crazy shit, dude. Like he approved an AI algorithm that was denying 90% of claims. Like, so very obviously were they basically just trying to put people in like a feedback loop, just like a constant stream of like, okay, you got to go here and you got to go here. Like they essentially create like a Kafka-esque bureaucracy that people have to go throughout in the hopes that they will either A, give up, or B, die before the payout has to actually happen, right? And the idea that this is something that should just be not at all considered in the case of Luigi Mangione, I think is psychotic. That this guy, this head of Homeland Security, is basically just taking off his little mask. He's got the Hitler mustache. There's a swastika on his forehead. And he's basically just saying, yeah, the crime that Luigi did is that he fought back against a psychopath who was murdering people for money. Like, and it is that simple. Like, it really is. And to pretend like that wasn't happening. Like, he doesn't mention it, right? It doesn't exist in the discourse at all. As far as the media power structure is concerned, Brian Thompson is just an innocent father of 2 beautiful children. He was gunned down for no reason, just an act of total barbarism. Like, who's gonna go along with this clown shoes shit? Like, and they keep trying to convince us that they have any credibility whatsoever. Like, this is the best part. They're trying to actually maintain credibility, and then they come out with this shit. Right? Mangione was charged with murder in connection with the shooting death of United Care CEO Brian Thompson Tuesday. He was indicted on a total of 11 charges, including first-degree murder and 2 counts of second-degree murder. Thompson was fatally shot on December 4th. In the days that follow, Mangione was elevated to a kind of folk hero status on social media. Yeah, because we love that Brian Thompson, psychopath, mass-murdering lunatic, was received any kind of justice whatsoever. That what this case reveals is that there are no laws in America, that the legal system exists to protect mass murdering psychopaths. It doesn't exist to protect citizens, right? If the law exists to protect average everyday citizens, then a man like Brian Thompson would have been incarcerated years ago. We literally would have been like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? People are paying into this and you're not paying out? Jail. Like, jail, not a fine, jail. And we would have done that forever ago if we were living in a society that was rational, where laws existed for the benefit of the people. But that's completely gone. Like, the legal system exists exclusively for the rich and for no other reason. And this case reveals that. And for the Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to come out and try to moralize against us and try to moralize that we shouldn't be celebrating the death of a mass murdering psychopath like Brian Thompson just tells you that these people are mass murdering psychopaths. Like, that the institution of Homeland Security was erected specifically to suppress you. Specifically. And for no other reason. Right? To ensure that the voice of the people will never be heard. That's the goal. That's the goal. Hold on, I'm going to continue with this. Yeah, the rhetoric is not purely political, Mayorkas added. We see a wide range of narratives that really drive some individuals to violence, and we have a responsibility to know the threat landscape and see what we can do working with communities to prevent that violence from actually occurring. Yeah, maybe provide healthcare, right? Maybe incarcerate some of these psychopaths, right? Like, why are you talking about average everyday citizens as the threat when you've got major, massive corporations that are literally murdering people every single day? Like, all you have to do is see any of the testimonies of people having their healthcare denied by these services to immediately be like, oh yeah, I was totally cool. Like, Brian Thompson deserved it. And he did deserve it. He completely deserved it. And if you think he didn't deserve it, then you're a fucking loser. Like, you're just a dweebish, nerdy Nazi. Like, I don't know what to tell you. The department saw similarly strong rhetoric in the aftermath of the hurricane that hit North Carolina, he said, and we had to pull FEMA workers out of the field who were responding to victims' needs because of false information that was deliberately disseminated on social media, such as the FEMA workers is coming to take your land, right? Like, there's just this lack of self-awareness that these people have, like, lost credibility. Like, nobody trusts these guys anymore. Like, and they seem to think that they should be trustworthy. Like, nobody at any level, like this woman here, she should be looking at this guy being like, are you concerned that you've lost credibility? Like, are you concerned that this is happening because nobody trusts you? Like, are you concerned that you have failed at your primary objective, which is defense and the protection of the homeland? And that you actually are just an incredulous organization that should likely be shut down? Do you think that that's something that's serious? Right? And that's the only questions we should be saying to this guy. Like, that's the only statement that we should be saying. But nobody's going to do it. Everybody talks to this guy as if he has credibility, and he doesn't. Like, and to me, that's the problem. That they're all living in this, like, gigantic bubble. Just this echo chamber of their own creation that exists only to drive a narrative. And the primary tip of the spear of that narrative is that this guy should be listened to at all. Instead of, this guy's just a goofy idiot. Like, who is this guy? Who gives a fuck who this guy actually is? Why does this guy have any authority whatsoever to speak? Right? He doesn't give a fuck about you, very clearly. He's sitting there trying to be like, the mass murderer who got gunned down after murdering thousands of people. We really have to think about him. Well, I'm shocked and appalled that people would celebrate the death of a mass murdering psychopath like Brian Thompson. Shut the fuck up. Like, why? What? That's the question I want asked. Why do you have credibility? Like, why does the Homeland Security Secretary have any credibility whatsoever? Why does Homeland Security have any credibility whatsoever? But nobody's going to actually ask that, right? Because if she started actually asking these questions, she wouldn't be in this position anymore, because she exists specifically to give credibility to this guy that has none whatsoever. Oh. Like, it's so wild watching America just discredit itself as a project. And everything it's doing, it can't help itself anymore. Like for God's sakes, like, I've shown this Warren Buffett thing. You've all seen this a million times, right? There's class warfare, all right, but it's my class, the rich class, that's making war, and we're winning. He said this in 2006. Like, and he's still alive for some reason. I don't understand how that's happened. He just outright admitted to everybody in front of us that he's waging war against you. And we're all just supposed to be like, oh, I guess, well, I'm going to go to work. Yep. Like, you see a story like this. It doesn't take many of these stories for people to start to go, oh, shit, yeah. Like, here's just a random one I found. This will be the 9th Christmas without my wife, who was denied life-saving treatments by United Healthcare. I do have a small sense of catharsis knowing the claims adjuster took out their CEO. And like, you see just story after story after story that is like this. That people's loved ones died not because of complications, not because of some kind of health concern, not because, but specifically because they were denied, that their claims were denied by a man like this, who got exactly what he deserved. And for some loser dweeb to tell me, like, I am shocked, I don't understand. Fuck off. Like, fuck off. I don't know why we're listening to this guy at all. And like, a meme like this really reminds me, right? A meme like this really reminds me, like, how many school shootings have there been? How many times have we, like, captured a school shooter? Like, how many children have been gunned down, right? And any of those people getting the death penalty, right? Any of those people going on trial and receiving, like, the death penalty or all this media coverage? Right? It's the total lack of empathy, compassion, or giving two shits whatsoever from the media structure. Right? Like school shootings happen and they're out of the news cycle the day they happen. Right? A school shooting happens and we literally don't know the name of the shooter or what he looks like. Right? Just completely banal, totally normalized, right out of the cycle. One CEO gets shot, and now all of a sudden there's, like, ABC documentaries, and we've got to know every single little tiny thing about this guy, and every the Department of Homeland Security is talking about him, the president is talking about him. Like, what a loser society, full of just total losers. Like who keeps going along with this shit? Of course, we've got total ballers, right? Deny, delay, depose. Vicious Karen Friedman. Agnifillo's plot exposed. Support hero Luigi Mangione, who bravely gunned down systemic murderer Brian Thompson, United Healthcare CEO. I kind of feel like this is fake, but I don't care. Like, I don't care. And so, what has gone on? So, the brass tacks of this is that Luigi Mangione pleaded not guilty. They had a hearing so that he could put in his plea. He put in a plea of not guilty. His lawyer basically admonished the court because of the, like, we all saw the, like, cop, the perp walk, right? We all saw this shit. And my favorite thing that's happened because of all this, hold on, let's see if I can just snag it and bring it up. Is this it? Nope. That's the fact that billionaires are spewing CO2 pollution in 90 minutes more than the average person in a lifetime. No, there's my favorite piece of news that's come out about all of this is that the judge that's presiding over the case, their spouse is a CEO. Yeah, here we are. No thanks, Ken. Luigi Mangione's judge is married to a former healthcare executive. Pretrial judge in case involving murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson married to former Pfizer executives. Magistrate Judge Catherine H. Parker, who is overseeing pretrial hearings for Luigi Mangione, is married to a former Pfizer executive and holds hundreds of thousands of dollars in stock, including in healthcare companies and pharmaceutical companies, according to her 2023 financial disclosures. Jay Perez, good to see you. The judge's ties to the healthcare business are a stark reminder of how pervasive the for-profit industry is in American life, a point made by Mangione himself. Yeah, like, is that a conflict of interest? Only if there's laws. Egg Z writes, the whole capitalist class is coming down on him. Yeah, they're desperate. Well, because I think that one of the big things that they're really scared of, and I've kind of touched on it, and I'll keep touching on it over and over and over again, right? Over and over and over again, I'll touch down on it, which is that if even 1/10, if even 10% of these people that are walking into schools and start shooting up schools start to turn their ire against the system that actually matters, right? Starts to actually go like, hey, wait a minute, I have a boss. Hey, wait a minute, I have a landlord. Hey, wait a minute, that boss and that landlord works with that politician, and they're all doing it in order to literally tax my life away so that they can go kill children overseas. Like, if 1/10 of these school shooters start to realize, oh, wait, I could just, like, walk past that school and walk down to the city hall. It's right over there, right? Oh, wait, these CEOs, like, the oligarchs have addresses. Like, they go places, right? Like, if these people start to actually piece this together, and if 1/10 of them start to, instead of shooting school children, start to shoot in the direction they should, it's going to be a total disaster for the capitalist class. It's going to be a complete and total fucking disaster for the capitalist class. And they keep generating them. They keep generating these shooters, right? Like the kid that took a shot at Trump. Like, how much longer until it's a shot at Bezos? How much longer until, like people keep walking up to these CEOs and, like, pieing them. Okay, cool. How much longer until that's a pistol? Like, how much longer until, like, Gates, Musk, Bezos, Peter Thiel, how much longer until these guys are going to have, like, big entourages of security and they can't go anywhere because people are going to take shots at them? Like, how much longer is that going to be? And if things continue in this way, and that is the reason why they're so fucking terrified of this story, and why this story has become such a striking point for the society, because everybody had suddenly collectively had this dawning realization, this dawning moment of realization that, oh, wow, we could just shoot these guys? Oh, we can just shoot these guys. Oh, shit. Oh, damn. You mean I don't need to take out my angst and anxiety on school children? Oh, I don't need to gun down innocent people in a mall? Oh, I don't need to take out my incel rage on women? Oh, I can actually go to powerful people's places and shoot them? Oh, and everybody will laud me as a hero? I think that's what's got them really fucked up. That's what's got them really fucked up. Like, it would be one thing if this shooting happened and everybody was just like, golly gee. Ah, golly gee. But that's not what's even happened, right? And it would be another thing if people were like, oh, like, I don't approve of it. But, I think that the healthcare industry has. There's literally people like popping champagne and doing dances and shit. There's the day it happened, there was a contest, a look-alike contest. Like people are celebrating this. People, Luigi Mangione, for God's sakes, like, you just look at this shit, right? And then you see how, like, even the pro wealth culture, like SNL, right? Like, they can't stop talking about how hot this guy is. Like nobody can talk about this guy in negative terms. There's nobody who is really like, oh, this is an unacceptable, like, except for, like, psychos like Ben Shapiro. But, like, we've always known he's a creepy little Nazi psycho in the first place. Now the rest of us are starting to put it together. But like, and so that's what's got them so terrified. And I've even got an article here that I'd really love to read, right? From Newsweek. Could Luigi Mangione reaction spark copycat shootings? Fingers crossed. Tien Ray Bay, good to see you. You're catching me in a bit of a rant. So Bay says, why do you think communism is good? Because it works. Simple as that. The shooting of Brian Thompson sparked two very separate reactions around this killer. A manhunt and admiration from certain parts of the internet, with the latter creating concern among security experts that this killing might inspire copycat events. Fingers crossed. When a person is gunned down in broad daylight, people do not usually have praise ready for the gunman. But the killing of the CEO of a health insurance company elicited much less sympathy and more memes from certain members of the general public. Certain members, basically fucking everybody. Including at least 90,000 people reacting to a tribute post to Thompson on Facebook with laughing emojis. Dude, that was so wild. That to me was like the biggest actual pivot point. When I saw that, I was like, oh fuck, like, that's the culture just completely pivoting. That, like, the United Healthcare put up. So here's the timeline, right? Brian Thompson is gunned down in the street. His compatriots hold the meeting anyway, because they're psychos and they don't give a fuck. They hold the meeting anyway. Literally as Brian Thompson is being, like, pulled away by ambulance services, they're putting up a job posting, basically being like, yep, opening for a CEO for United Health. Bye, Brian. And then they post on Facebook. They're like, it has come to our attention after we held our meeting and put up a job posting that Brian Thompson has died. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the people of the blood, like, literally just like a fill in the blanks name. Our thoughts and prayers go out to Brian Thompson's family. Like, and the number one reaction to the post was laughing emojis. Get wrecked. Get completely wrecked. Get totally wrecked. Bay over on Twitch, you probably think China is socialist? Yes, of course they are. Like, they are led by the Communist Party of China, the same party that's Mao's party, that's Deng's party. Like, this weird capitalist idea that somehow what's happening in China is because of capitalism. If that were true, then why isn't it happening here? Like, that's the most embarrassing part about the whole, like, China's actually capitalist, actually. Actually, what's happening in China is because of capitalism, actually, and capitalism's super great. I know it's not happening here, and we're not doing that at all, but it's, China is capitalism, actually. Yeah, even though we're also capitalism, and it's not happening here, but capitalism's good, actually. It's just a religion. It's just a religion. If it's good, it's capitalism, and if it's bad, it's communism. This reaction led security professionals to tell Newsweek that the current environment is dangerous for CEOs and C-suite members. Good. I hope these guys are pissing themselves, man. Like, I super hope that they're super pissing themselves. Like, here's a story that I hope absolutely happens to these guys. I hope that they hire a bunch of security personnel and that there are people in the security industry and they need so many new people that they just hire a bunch of people and they can't really vet them because they need them so quickly, and enough people get in there and they get close to these guys and just shoot them. That would be the best. If like the security personnel that they themselves hired turned on them, oh, that'd be so sweet. Like make these guys feel as unsafe as possible all the time, constantly. Oh, Bay doing the work to try to derail my joy here. Chinese economy does not works as Marx intends. Okay, my man. Like, I'm gonna go really far out on a limb and say you don't actually know what you're talking about, right? Like, you don't actually know what Marx wrote or any of that. But even if any of that were true, right? Even if it isn't like a strict adherence to this religious ideology, like this is the thing about religious acolytes, right? Who hold on to religious principles, is that you misunderstand the purpose of Marxism. That Marxism is a dialectic, it's a tool in order to observe reality, right? To observe reality. I really wish you'd just stop typing. Like, I really do. I really wish you'd just listen. Like, that's the thing with people who talk like you. Religious-minded people like you never listen. And so it's just not really worth engaging with you, right? Like, because you're not actually asking questions. You're just asserting your religious ideology on me. And it's just sort of like, boof, boof, boof. Like, the Chinese Communist Party, like the banks are owned by the Chinese Communist Party, my man. Like, I just don't know what you need. Like, I just don't know what you need. That the relationship between China and capitalism is a complex one, where China was forced at the end of the barrel of a gun to make concessions to international capitalism. And as it's building its own productive forces under the threat of violence from imperial capitalism, it's gotten strong enough that it doesn't need to abide by those principles anymore. And it's not. And so what China is looking at now is a period of time that I call pruning the garden, right? Where the capitalist systems that do exist in China are going to die. And they're going to die based on Marxist principles, right? They're going to just, like, the institutions that came up in China that were capitalist in nature because China had to make concessions to the international system of capital under threat of literal nuclear bombardment. Well, they're doing exactly what the Chinese expect them to do, because the Chinese are Marxists, right? They grow up, right? And then they calcify and they die. And as they die, the Chinese Communist Party takes them, right? And they prune the garden. And it will not be that much longer until all of these capitalist systems that helped bring wealth into China, as Deng predicted, will essentially be gone, because capitalism is not a sustainable system, right? It can't sustain itself. And so what happens here when it happens, like during the 2008 financial collapse, for example, like what we do is we bail out all the rich people, right? That we take your labor and we take your taxes and we bail out all the rich people. Well, in China, when that happens, they just let it collapse. And they say to the billionaires, you got to pay for this, right? And so the billionaires basically go into decline. And they are in decline in China because of this. Because they had their period of time, they had their apex peak, right? And now it's declining. And instead of just sacrificing all of the citizenry and saying, we've got to help the capitalists, they're basically saying, fuck these capitalists, I don't give a shit, right? And China's getting itself into a position where it no longer needs to listen to the West. And you have a West that's in a pretty significant decline and a pretty significant rising. Bay continues, you think China... Oh, goodness. We're just going to go down this rabbit hole, eh? So there's just like cartoonish stuff you've said here. Like, you think China doesn't need to abide by market anymore? Not the claim, right? Like, straight up, I just wish you were listening and not like adhering to your religious ideology. It gets difficult to have serious conversations, right? Like, every single time a pro-capitalist comes in here with their religious ideology, I just walk away from it just shaking my head. Like, you're just hearing what you want to hear, right? So I just wish you were actually listening, right? And actually hearing what was being said as opposed to what you wanted to hear. Like, that it just would be so much easier. Like, with Shanghai and big cities becoming more cyberpunk dystopia, I have no idea what you're fucking talking about, dude. I think you're thinking about Los Angeles or San Francisco, right? Like, you can just go look at these play. Like, you can go to YouTube and do like walk around videos of China and just take a look at them. Like, to call them cyberpunk dystopias, I just think is, I don't think you know what a cyberpunk dystopia is. Where you work for $5 a day, wages have been going up in China. Like you're stuck in the 70s, dude. Like, you're stuck in the 70s. Like, 1970s China was 50 years ago, right? Wages have consistently gone up in China year over year, while wages here in the West have flattened and are suppressed, right? Like, the average age of retirement in China is 55. I genuinely have no fucking idea what you're talking about. No, bro. I have a friend in Shanghai. Oh, you've got a friend. Okay, cool. Right. This doesn't sound like a made up story. Like, in China, the problem is it grows, but it gets very expensive. Like, sounds like America. Like, it's just this, like, how do we have conversations? Like, how do we even have this? Apurav Varshni says maybe some even vetted security guy could show solidarity and do the deed. Yeah, wouldn't that be baller? That would be super super baller, dude. A company that trades with people's lives in the name of profits, which has led to countless tragedies. Yeah, yeah, and we aren't any better in the situation in the West. Yeah, the cost of living in China is very low. Well, I mean, they went through like a housing correction fairly recently, right? Like, they had a whole market bubble that happened because they had allowed their housing to be commodified. And then Xi Jinping essentially just said, like, no, housing is for living in. This isn't an investment thing. And it essentially collapsed the market. The wealth of property collapsed. Capitalists cried and cried and cried about it because they were like, oh, you mean we can't throw people into the streets for money? Uh, uh, And they even, like, they went so far, they arrested some of the people who were still selling properties as investments, these sorts of things. But, like, I think the point that you're missing, right? And really, this is common, right? And there does come a point where I get to say you're missing it intentionally on purpose, right? Is that China is ascending. That if you look at China 20 years ago and you look at it today, it's ascending. That it's not good enough to take a snapshot of a place and say, oh, it's got this going on, that's terrible, right? Because you're always going to compare that to your religious ideology of what good and bad is, right? That it's not actually moored in anything real. That the best way to do analysis of a society and in a culture is to actually look at what things were going on like 20 years ago, right? Or even 5 years ago. Like, this is how you do an appropriate analysis of a society, right? And again, you're not really listening, right? You're not really listening. So you take a look at a society 20 years ago, 50 years ago, right? And you analyze it from there. and you take a look at the trajectory that it has taken, and it is impossible to deny that China is not on the ascension, right? Wages are continuing an upward trend while prices remain stable. The quality of life for the Chinese is going up. Access to healthcare is going up. Access to resources is going up. Life expectancy is going up. Literacy is going up. Like, on every single trajectory, right? That every single trajectory, every single thing you want to look at, right? It's ascending. And sure, you can take a look at any society. You can take a snapshot of any society and you can be like, oh, they need to improve that. This is no good here, right? But you're comparing it to nothing, right? You're comparing it to your imagination and your religious ideology, right, that you're holding on to allows you to create whatever you like because you're not mooring anything to reality, right? And you're not really listening to anybody. You're just making these broad, sweeping claims that are disconnected from reality at all. And I'm really here, like, the thing that I'm constantly trying to drive to people, like, I'm not really trying to convince you of anything other than this, is to please begin meaningfully engaging with reality. Please stop comparing things to your imagination, because that's what you're actually doing right now. You have an imagination, you have an imagined idea of what a decent society should look like, and you're comparing your imagination to a snapshot that you took of a place one day. And I'm telling you, that's no way to analyze anything. That's no way to analyze a person's life. That's no way to analyze a trajectory of a society. That's no way to analyze literally anything. It's just poor judgment. It's just a bad way to go about this. Because you can that means that you can create a standard that no one could ever adhere to. And of course, the common thing for pro-capitalists to do, because they're religious acolytes primarily and fundamentalists, is to apply this imagined reality to other societies and then not apply that same imagined reality to their own society, right? That when it comes to critiquing foreign cultures and foreign societies, it's hard-nosed criticism. They're not abiding by the strict letter of this doctrine and this dogma that I've created. And then when it comes to your own neighborhood, you just don't give a fuck at all, right? You don't care even a little, right? Like, you can literally be stepping over homeless people, walking down a street that is full of just boarded up empty buildings, and seem to think that that's fine. But you turn your eyes towards another culture, and all of a sudden it's just this hard line fundamentalist viewpoint that it must adhere to. And even though they don't give a shit about that. They don't care at all. Why? Because they are living in an upward trajectory. That today was better than yesterday, and yesterday was better than the day before. And they see that they're on this upward trajectory, and they see that they're doing that, and they understand as a people and a culture. And if you want to see who's the most critical about Chinese society, just go on Chinese social media. You'll see a very critical group of people, because they all understand that the goal is to continuously improve and to continuously drive things upward and forward. And they're doing that. And to pretend like they're not is utter folly. Utter folly. Just silliness. Bay continues and says, you don't think there are capitalist countries also in the upward trajectory? Abso-fucking-lutely not. It is clownish to pretend like the capitalist societies are on an upward trajectory. It is absolutely clown shoes to pretend like they're on this upward trajectory. Are you kidding me? The neoliberal period has been utter stagnation. There's been one group of people who have experienced any kind of upward trajectory in the capitalist societies, and it's the oligarchs. It's the owners of the society who have literally amassed so much wealth. Like Jeff Bezos is having a $600 million wedding. He keeps shooting rockets into space, emitting more carbon emissions than a single individual can in an entire lifetime. Like, Elon Musk is straight up buying the presidency. They're calling him President Musk. And meanwhile, the average buying power of the average citizen that lives in the country, like, people can't buy houses anymore. People can't buy property anymore. People can't buy goods and services anymore. We're living in and for God's sakes, like, go to Detroit. Like go to the places that have absolutely experienced firsthand the front line of the decline, right? No, I don't care, dude. Like, I can tell you're just living in sort of this power fantasy, right? This sort of made up reality of your own existence, this religious fundamentalism, right? And usually what this is it's just, oh, look, that side is rich, the capitalist side is rich, the non-capitalist side is poor, right? And then you just completely ignore that the rich side got rich by exploiting the poor side. Or you just omit that from your analysis, because what you're doing isn't an analysis, it's just religious ideology. Like, just this quaint belief that capitalism is somehow good against all evidence. Like, you don't have a scrap of evidence outside of, look, rich people. And you're just utterly disconnected from the reality that, yeah, those people are rich because they took the wealth from the poor. Right? That, like, they enslaved that population economically. They removed food and shelter from the populace and the access to the land from the populace. They alienated the populace from the resources. That's why they're poor, and that's why they're rich. And we're just not going to pay attention to that. Because capitalism makes people rich. And if you're poor, you're not working hard. It's socialism that made them poor, actually. That's why anytime they elect a socialist, we got to get the CIA in there to overthrow the government. Maradonis the Goat. Detroit's doing pretty good, I ain't gonna lie. Okay, sure, bud. The DPRK is starving? Jesus Christ. The only reason China doing good is because their use of capitalism. Just, propaganda works, man. Propaganda works. Like, it's just as simple as that. Like people just want to believe what they want to believe. That's it. And it's so odd living in a society that has genuinely turned against the media system and is genuinely like we're celebrating Luigi Mangione here. Like, we understand that the media system is complacent in the mass murder of thousands of people across America through its healthcare system. And yet when it comes to talking about its enemies, it's 100% always telling the truth, and we shouldn't be skeptical whatsoever. Right? We shouldn't be skeptical whatsoever. So, Bay, here's something. You're saying you want to emigrate to Canada. I'm going to tell you exactly what's going on in Canada, because I'm working with people who have done exactly what you're saying. That they come to Canada, they get the job that pays them a higher value, right? Higher number, good, right? High number, good. And then they realize, oh, wait a minute, that high number good is also high number everywhere else, right? High cost of living. My rent is super high. My food bill is super high. All my money gets chewed away by a capitalist class that has raised prices. And what we have is, here in Canada, we've had a mass immigration moment, followed by a mass emigration moment. Because lots of people are coming into Canada and being like, oh shit, this package that they sold me didn't actually go anywhere. Right? Look at China after the Civil War. Are you talking about the Cultural Revolution? Is that what you're talking about? The only reason it's a successful due to the capitalistic parts of China. No. Like, the Chinese Communist Party is in control of China. Like, that's Mao's party. And the only reason they have had to negotiate with the capitalist class is because of the war. Like the Vietnam War, the Laos War, the Cambodian War, the South Pacific Wars that happened for like 30 years in the region. Right? We're just going to obliterate that. Right? We're just not going to pay any attention to that whatsoever. That Deng made a peace deal with the Americans that essentially said, okay, we're going to stop this warfare, right? We're going to end the Vietnam War. We're going to end the Korean War. You're going to stop threatening to drop nukes on us, right? Like, you're going to stop doing that, right? And then we'll allow you to bring in factories, which we, the Communist Party of China, will oversee. And what the Chinese communists have done is that they have learned from the Americans how to industrialize, how to build, right? And they've mastered that. And now that they have control of the means of production, they are decoupling themselves and they're erecting alternative systems. That's what the BRICS organization is. Like, Mexico has slums. You can see the sewage and smell, kind of the electricity wires messy in the streets, narrow irregular sidewalks. You live like this in Canada? There are places like that in Canada. Like, if you want to compare the richest section of Canada to the poorest section in Mexico, right? Like, go to Timmins. Like, go to some of the poorer cities. Go across some of the poorest cities that exist go to Camden, New Jersey. Like, the reason why you think the way you think is because poverty has been invisibilized in our media, right? Anytime you tune in to media that exists and is projected out into the world from America and Canada and the West generally, like, we're going to show you the glitter. We're going to show you the sunshine. We're going to show you all the positivity. We're never going to show you the negative shit that is happening in the society. We're never actually going to show you any of that. Right? And if you pretend like what the empire projects of itself is what is real, then you can buy into this idea that the grass is always greener, that it's always better over there. Right? Look, I can't make these decisions for you, dude. I'm just telling you. Like, you're going to come up here thinking you're going to make a whole lot more money. All your money is going to go to your landlord, right? God help you if you get caught in the temporary foreign worker system, right? Which is a slave system that exists. Like, and again, Canada's on the decline. Right? The OECD has Canada pegged for being in an economic decline for decades. We're going to be the worst developing nation in what's called the developing countries. Like, and again, like, I don't know where you live. Like, I don't know, like, you have to make your own decisions. I just want you to make your decisions based on reality and not based on sort of this Pollyannish pretend religious view of things being grander or greater elsewhere. Like, yeah, is Canada better than a war-torn country that's experiencing, like, warlords? Sure. Like, of course. But, like, we are also funding those warlords. So there's a reason, right? Like, there's a reason why that happens. This is the thing I'm trying to get people to understand, right? Is that a big reason why sections of the empire look a lot better and aren't as torn up is because we don't bomb ourselves. Watson, good to see you. Oh, the socialist attitude to the tragedy of Luigi Mangione article. Yes, please. Tragedy of Luigi Mangione. WS. The socialist attitude to the tragedy of Luigi Mangione. The case of Luigi Mangione, the 26-year-old who allegedly, thank you, allegedly, I actually think this isn't the guy. Like, let me be really clear about my position on this kid. I don't think this is the kid. Like, I don't think this is the guy. I totally buy into this conspiracy that says, like, nope, he looks different. The pictures they showed us before don't look like this guy. I think that they lost their guy and then just started doing, like, a general pickup. Like, the story that they'll never tell anybody is of the 1,000 people they picked up until finally they found somebody who sort of fit. And was just like, okay, this guy fits. He had a weapon on him, right? Like, we can kind of make this fit our narrative. Okay, cool. And now they're just running with this guy. The case of Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old who allegedly assassinated United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in the streets of Manhattan, has become a major public issue in the United States. While many details remain to be explained, the response from different layers of society raises fundamental class questions. To begin with, the World Socialist website denounces the vindictive prosecution of Mangione, who has been denied bail, and is being charged with terrorism, raising the possibility of the death penalty. We demand that Mangione, who apparently suffers from severe health issues, be granted bail and receive the medical care that he needs. The response of the corporate oligarchs and mainstream media, combining a vicious attitude towards Mangione personally with moral outrage over his alleged violence, is utterly hypocritical. Only a few days after the killing in Manhattan, the media was unanimous in its praise of the terrorist murder of Russian General Igor Kirillov in the streets of Moscow, an act which brings the world closer to the brink of nuclear war. American capitalist society, in terminal crisis, feeds on flesh and drinks blood, to quote civil rights lawyer Clarence Darrow's description of the hysteria during World War I. Hundreds of thousands have been killed in U.S.-backed wars in Ukraine, Gaza, Syria, and other countries. The new Trump administration is preparing political violence on a scale never seen before in American history. Having said this, we totally oppose those who hold up Mangione as some sort of avenging hero. Boo! Boo! Any feeling of satisfaction that Thompson got what he deserved is a retrograde and even harmful response. Boo! Boo! Personalizing what is ultimately a problem that can only be resolved on the basis of social struggle by the working class. Yeah, as long as that social struggle is nonviolent, I guess. Boo! Bad take. Super bad take, Tom Hall. Boo! The significant public support for what Mangione allegedly did expresses the deep-rooted tendency in American public life, itself promoted by the corporate media in opposition to class consciousness, to glorify individual action and extreme individualism. More will come out of the motives behind the killing. However, one can never judge an act by subjective intentions, but rather by the perspective that guides it and the impact it has. From the standpoint of the latter criteria, the killing of Thompson changes nothing except that the 50-year-old's wife and 2 children have been deprived of a husband and father. So this is the same exact take as the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. That's the exact same take. What is this trash take? This garbage take? He was a father and a husband. He was a mass murdering psychopath that killed thousands of people. He approved a system that murdered tons of people, children, women, men. He didn't give a fuck at all. He got what he deserved. This is a trash take. I'm done reading this article. I'm probably not going back to the World Socialist website again. Trash take. Total garbage take. 0%. Fuck you. Garbage. I'm done. Just garbage ass take. Literally the same take as like the FBI. Cool. Fuck off. Just embarrassing, dude. Yeah, I can't imagine why socialists and communists haven't grown in the West. Jesus fucking Christ. Just this embarrassing trash. Like, absolute just dreck of a take. Holy fuck. No. We're done. Like, we're done. And we're done with the World Socialist website. Bye-bye. Flick off. Lights out. Get out of here. Like, no wonder communism and socialism goes nowhere. No wonder this whole thing dies. Right? He was a husband and a father, and we should make sure that shut up. It's the same thing the Department of Homeland Security had to say. It's the exact same take. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I'm just supposed to sit here and listen to these guys spew this drivel out in front of us and then pretend like these guys are actually socialists or communists? Fuck off. It's just garbage. It's just a garbage take by garbage people. There's a reason why communism can't grow, and that's the reason why. Because these guys keep standing up and acting essentially as apologists for the wealthy class. Brian Thompson got exactly what he had coming to him. He was a mass murdering psychopath. I'm glad he got shot. I hope it happens more. Like, what do you want? You're just walking around pretending like you're going to talk yourself into a revolution. Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Like, no wonder leftism is dead in this country. Like, no wonder there's like nothing going on. Because we keep hearing from these total fucking losers who keep trying to convince everybody that what the Department of Homeland Security has to say should be credible and taken seriously. Get the fuck out of here. I'm done with the World Socialist website. That's the last article I'll ever read from them, ever. Trash take. Absolute garbage. 0%. Fail on the highest possible fucking level. Just total garbage. Embarrassing. Totally fucking embarrassing. Stop reading them. Like, stop supporting them. It's just garbage. There's a reason why nothing ever gets done. There's a reason why these movements go nowhere. And that's why. Jesus, just like preemptively shooting yourself in the fucking ass. Preemptively just taking out a gun and just blowing your own foot away. Ugh. It's just embarrassing. People over on Twitch are debating, like, Cuba is in a really interesting position. They've just adopted the BRICS. Like, you guys seem confused that, like, capitalism is not markets, right? Like, that's, I think, where your confusion is coming from. That you guys are sitting there thinking, like, oh, a market is capitalism. Capitalism is markets. It's like, no. Like, no. Engaging in market principles, engaging in this market stuff is like feudal societies had markets. Slave societies had markets. Like, tribal societies had markets. Like, markets exist across all societies. It's just a misunderstanding of what capitalism actually is. So get this comment, right? Market basically means private ownership of means of production in terms of China and Cuba. So you've defined the market as capitalism, right? Which is just not accurate at all. So if you define things as they are not defined as, like, if you just say things are capitalism, then you can make a theory that makes sense to you, but it's just not a real thing. Like, defining capitalism as defining markets as private ownership is, like, just flatly false. So Mardon is half right, right? Capitalism is an economic system where private individuals and organizations own and control the means of production. Correct. And price and distribution are determined by a free market. It's not necessary, right? Like, it's also especially just like fundamentally false. Like, there has never been a free market in capitalism ever, right? Like, capitalists are often heavily subsidized by the state. You're just wedging in this idea of free market, and it's not accurate. It's just not right. Like, private ownership, sure, but like, and the more you dig into this concept of a market, like the concept of the free market emerges under Milton. Right, this is one of these neoliberal principles that comes into the society through Thatcher and Reagan and Mulrooney and these guys, right? The idea of a quote-unquote free market. Of course, there's no such thing as a free market. It's never existed. The idea of let's strip the regulation, let's strip all this kind of stuff, it's just a way to attack labor unions, right? That's all that ever was. And like, you take a look at somebody like Elon Musk, for example. Like, Elon Musk is the best example of this. Like, his wealth is inherently subsidized. Like, he is in the position that he is in because all of his companies are heavily subsidized by the United States government and the United States military. Like, that's the reason why he has the wealth that he has. And that's not a free market. And so when these guys stand up and start talking about a free market, what they're actually talking about, what they're actually discussing is deregulation, right? And deregulation is the word they use for slavery, to reintroduce slavery back into the system, right? That regulations were put in place, like don't poison the water supply, don't poison the food, right? People should only have to work a certain amount of time, right? Those sorts of regulations, well, they need to be deregulated because they stand in the way of the profits of a small group of psychopaths that own the society. Like, that's what the free market actually is. But in terms of like what is or is not capitalism, like a free market is not required or necessary or even really exists. It's just kind of a propaganda term, right? That's because those agencies Elon owns does shit for the U.S. government. Yeah, like, he's the front man for the United States military. Like, if the United States military tried to get away with some of the stuff that it could, it would never have been able to. So they used Elon Musk as a front man in order to convince you that, oh, he's a super smart entrepreneur. Certainly not just the United States military militarizing space and doing all kinds of crazy shit. Right? You've just bought into the idea that Elon Musk is something that he isn't. Right? He's a private, what an intellectual. Oh my goodness. And most of the stuff that he's doing is being done elsewhere better. And then on top of that, like, what his job basically is to just allow the United States military to militarize space. It's pretty much the bulk of his job. And everybody just, instead of going, oh my God, the United States military is militarizing space, they go, Elon Musk taking us into a new future generation. We're going to go to Mars. And all this kind of just nonsense that is just utterly bullshit. Just straight up a story. Just a story that you're buying into. Like, and the moment you pierce through that and you just go like, okay, that's a nonsense story that they're telling us. Who is Elon Musk? How is he connected to all of this? It's very obvious that he's just a front man for the United States military so they can militarize space. Like, that's what it is. Yeah. Like, it's so weird that you're describing fascism and you don't even get it. Like, that's the weirdest part, right? Like, you're describing a system that is inherently fascist. And now you've got Elon Musk, like, taking over government. You've got, like, Elon Musk getting involved at, like, the presidential level, to the level where they're calling him President Musk. And, like, you just seem to not really grasp and understand that is fundamentally fascism. Like, that is definitionally fascism. It's just like this incestuous cycle where the state pays a private individual to work for the state, who then pays a private individual, who then gets the state to do things for the private individual, so that private individual does stuff for the state. And a bit like, if Elon Musk was a pope, you would fully understand that this is a theocracy, right? If Elon Musk was like the leader of a major church, not even a pope, but just like a pastor of like a major church, you would immediately be like, this is a theocracy. You would understand that instantaneously. Well, the exact same relationship exists between business and the state. Except when that happens, it's called fascism. Like, what are you looking at? You just described China. Dude, I'm just going to flatly tell you, you do not know anything about China. Like, please, please, please. It's just embarrassing. Describe China without describing China. Look, China's system is really straightforward. It's actually really easy. There's an organization within China called the National People's Congress, right? They hold an election once every 5 years or 10 years. I forget how often they hold elections offhand. In any case, people are elected to the National People's Congress, and while they are at the National People's Congress, there is a vetting structure, right? So they'll take people who are elected into the National People's Congress, and they'll put them, and the National People's Congress itself will put people in villages, small municipalities, small sections, and they are essentially a vetting structure and a vetting system to make sure that you don't end up with a Donald Trump, right? As you ascend this structure, as Xi Jinping did, you gain more trust, you gain more trust, you gain more trust, until eventually you can garner enough support to be elected as the leader of the group. And you get elected into a smaller, more agile group. Oh my God, dude. This is just embarrassing. I think I'm done with you guys. You guys, look, all I'm going to say to you guys is you're embarrassing. Like, listen to these comments, guys. You think China has fair elections where people literally disappear? Make a bad comment about Xi, apparently disappears. Just embarrassing shit, dude. Like, please stop reading CIA propaganda. Like, stop reading Radio Free Asia. Stop reading, like, the Epoch Times or something. It's just embarrassing. It's just embarrassing, guys. Like, for real. Like, you sound like little kids. Like, just embarrassing garbage. You're not really worth talking to anymore. If you're going to say that kind of trash, like, it's just embarrassing. Well, why don't you move to China then? Yeah. No more little kid bullshit. No, once you prove to me that you're too stupid to talk to, I get you out of the chat. So you're too stupid to talk to. So bye-bye. It's just stupid. And I think, no. I think that you're too stupid to talk to, too. So, bye-bye. It's pretty straightforward stuff, guys. You have to be smart enough to talk to, right? And once you show people that you're too stupid to talk to, people don't want to talk to you anymore. So it's really that simple. So please grow up. Please just, like, read a book. Stop being so stupid. Stop believing the CIA. Right? I don't like to keep stupid people around. So get out of here, okay? Ugh. Bread Bunny. What's new in military news? Everything's kind of just in stasis right now, Bread Bunny, because we're in this period of time. I mean, the big news, frankly, oh yeah, let's get away from this stupid talk and start talking about something that actually, yeah. This is really the big stuff that's going on right now. Trump again calls to buy Greenland after eyeing Canada and the Panama Canal. So there are grumblings and rumblings that Donald Trump wants to move towards integrating Canada into the United States. He initially he was jokingly calling Canada the 51st state and calling Justin Trudeau Governor Trudeau. Joe, good to see you. And initially people were kind of taking it as like, haha, he's just trying to get under our skin. But he keeps doing it. And more people around him keep talking about it. And so now it's being taken a little bit more seriously. Denmark absolutely takes this seriously, as they have boosted their Greenland Defense Fund by like $1.5 billion. Right? Because what I think is going on, especially the Greenland one, like the United States as a dying empire, right, is feeling uncertain, is feeling shaken, right? They feel very shaken right now. And they know, certainly the business class in America knows that they're losing credibility and knows that they're losing prestige and knows that they're losing control. And so the Greenland thing, Greenland is full of natural resources that America wants to get its hands on. And it wants to get its hands on it because they've been reliant on China for getting access to some of those resources. And China recently just sanctioned them. Basically said, we're not going to sell those resources to you anymore. Why? Because America keeps threatening China and keeps saying, hey, we're going to go over there and bomb Taiwan or whatever. We're going to foment an independence movement in Taiwan, like we have fomented an independence movement in Myanmar, right? And so China is basically saying, yeah, we're not going to keep selling you rare resources you need to fund to fuel your military machine. And this has America basically looking around going, where can we get those resources from? Well, you know where they can get some of those resources from? Greenland, right? Who owns Greenland? Denmark. And so that has Denmark feeling a little skittish. Skittish enough to actually increase their defense budget. And say out loud that they're doing it because Donald Trump keeps saying it. Right? Donald Trump has also threatened to simply move troops into the Panama Canal. Right? Once you move troops, the Panama Canal, very, very important. Very, very important canal system for the United States. Right? It literally connects the West Coast to the East Coast. That like they can send goods up and around and up and around and up and around and through this corridor. Like if this coast wants to send something over to Spain, instead of having to go, if they don't go through the canal, they got to go all the way fucking down here, all the way back up here and over. Right? With the canal, they can go do much faster. It's an important shipping lane for the United States for sure. Just like how the Suez Canal is an important shipping lane for the United States. Which, I mean, they've got the Suez Canal on lock. Like, Egypt is not going to do anything to prevent any of that. In terms of, like, the wars that are going on, so let's do the rough, quick breakdown of what I've been paying attention to. This has essentially turned into something of a stalemate, right? The Russians essentially have all the territory that they want to have. They're not interested in giving up more territory, or they're not interested in claiming more territory. I think that they are sort of hoping that Donald Trump's going to come in and they're going to be able to do something about it. But Donald Trump's like not a wizard. Like, he's not going to be able to magically do anything about it. And so I think more or less this whole situation is just going to more or less calcify into where it is now, where the Ukrainians are just ground down and ground down and ground down and ground down, while the Russians basically just hold the line. And this territory, like on Google Maps, this solid line will stay like this, but on every Russian map, the line will be here. Right? And just that's how it'll be moving forward. And maybe there'll be an agreement, but who's to say? Because right now it's just is as it is. It's just this ground down thing. The big invasion into Syria, right? That Israel went in with the help of the United States and invaded Syria with the help of, was it? I forget which group it is. Shoot, I'm totally blanking on the group. Was it ISIS? No, ISIS has been destroyed. Was it Al-Qaeda? The Taliban? I forget which group. In any case, they went in and they deposed Assad. Right, Assad was deposed, and they got rid of him. And once you get rid of Assad in the region, Assad was sort of like the that was sort of like the last gasp of the of the Assad regime, right? And so now the fate of Syria is just totally up in the air. And my gut tells me that Syria is more or less going to devolve into the same way as Libya did. That they'll just be warlords that are constantly vying for power and control while the United States seizes key oil reserves and key resources, right? That and also expands the influence of Israel into the region, which is sort of the goal, greater Israel, right? And uh, uh, Iraq can't really do anything about it. Erdogan's definitely not going to do anything about it. And it also helps protect Israel from the defection that was happening in the north. There were big threats of people within the north of Israel saying that we're going to break off and create our own thing. Well, if you destroy Lebanon and destroy Syria, create like whole chaos system, and this is all the Americans have left, right? This is all they have left. They just have a system of chaos now. Like Michael Hudson said it, and when he said it, it like really crystallized something in my mind, right? Moving into the modern era, every country is going to have its own edge and its own advantage. And the question is, what's the advantage that the United States is going to bring? How is the United States going to what advantage are they going to take advantage of in order to position themselves in the world? And Michael Hudson said it, that their advantage is that they have advanced terrorist techniques. And it really dawned on me and made me go like, oh yeah, that's actually true. The largest, most successful terrorist organization that exists is for sure the CIA, right? And the United States, as well as like the FBI and the State Department and the Pentagon, right? And that they no longer really have what you would consider a standard military fighting force, right? Like drop a bunch of men on a line, fight, right? They don't really do that anymore, and they're not really interested in doing that anymore. That they can't actually fight in a traditional sense. That's why they get defeated by the Houthis, right? That's why like small scale, like well organized people can actually defend themselves against the United States military. But what the United States military can do very well, and what the Americans can do very well, is destabilization and terrorism. They're very good at doing that, because that's basically what they've been doing for the last 40, 50 years. And so the trouble, of course, that the rest of that America has moving in with that advantage is that everyone's aware of it now. That's the reason why you have the BRICS organization coming up, which I think the big news there, I kind of touched on it very briefly, but I want to specifically touch on that. We have new members joining BRICS. We have Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, right? That makes all the sense in the world, right? Those are literally like, there's Malaysia, there's Indonesia, there's Thailand. It absolutely makes sense for them to become trading partners with China. I think that's good news for China, bad news for the United States, because the United States is really keen on trying to break this region apart, right? Nilo, good to see you, by the way, Nilo. Nilo had us read up on Myanmar, and we recognized that the United States had successfully couped Myanmar for a decade, right? And so for these countries to now become part, for Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia to become part of the BRICS organization, is China expanding its influence into the South Pacific, into the South China Sea, which America does not want to see, just doesn't want to see that. And then, of course, you have Belarus, Bolivia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Uganda all joining, which, terrible for the United States, right? Cuba has now joined officially, right? So all of these claims that were being made before that Cuba is becoming more capitalistic, it's like, are they? Are they becoming more capitalistic? Looks to me like they're joining up with like a large, enormous trade organization. Although I guess if you define capitalism as a market for whatever reason, so that you can make like the broadest, the most broad definition possible. Nilo writes, Russia's territorial claims up in the Arctic are pretty ambitious. I'm guessing they're claiming more than is reasonable to establish a strong bargaining position. Oh yeah, for sure, dude. Like, we're so used to looking at the map this way that we don't actually consider. Hold on, I wonder if I could just quickly find it. Map of the world from the Arctic. Arctic. Like uh uh if I'm yeah, dude, check this image out. Right? So this is a map of the world from the top. From there's the Arctic, right? Like you can see it. That's Russia, right? There's Finland and Norway, right? Here's Greenland, right? There's Canada. Like, and there's sort of the bridge from Alaska, right? There's Alaska. If I'm Canada, right? A big thing that I am thinking about is the fact that Russia's right there. Like Russia's right goddamn there. And we're going to have like territorial disputes and resource disputes with Russia moving forward. And it seems to me that Russia is more aware of that than Canada is. Because Canada, Canada's ethos is essentially opportunistic, which makes sense because that's the principle that Canada was essentially founded on. Joe writes, John, have you heard about China refusing to export certain products in light of tariffs? Yes, of course. That I think that that's a reason why we've ended up with Donald Trump saying he wants to buy Greenland, right? Like all of this stuff that he keeps talking about sounds goofy until he actually does something about it. And this is the big thing is that we're in like a holding pattern. Everybody's kind of just holding their breath because we don't actually know what's going to happen next. We don't actually know what's going to happen next. Like, are they literally just going to move troops into Greenland? Like, like that's something to think about and consider. Like, what if the United States just decides it's going to go to Greenland and it's just going to put stuff there? What are they going to do? What the hell is Denmark going to do? Like little tiny rinky dinky like the Denmark. Like there's Denmark. Denmark has ownership of Greenland. For the longest time, everybody's just been like, yeah, I guess Denmark just owns Greenland. Well, what happens if the United States is just like, yeah, you don't. We're going to take control of Greenland. And, like, it's in the interests of the United States to do so, right? If they take over Greenland, that gives them, like, a pretty major foothold in a region that is likely going to experience a certain degree of conflict moving forward, right? Given the opportunistic nature of the United States and Canada and how they view resource acquisition and resource extraction, right? That it's all very opportunistically based. Like they don't like we don't believe in things like loyalty. We don't care about treaties. We don't care about any of that. It's literally just first come first serve. And if you happen to be the one that first comes, then we will be the ones that first serve, right? And so the United States basically wants to turn Greenland into a military base so that it can have a standoff with Russia in the Arctic with the help of Canada, which Donald Trump keeps saying wants to make the 51st state. So, like, I think that this is serious. I think that this is like a serious thing that the United States is actually eyeing up. And one of the things that I think, like, there's this sort of tendency, and I'm as guilty of this as anybody else, of kind of lauding Donald Trump and saying that Donald Trump oh, he's going to end the wars. He keeps talking about how he's going to end these wars. And it's because, but I just, uh, um, Donald Trump's concerns are closer to home, right? Like he'll say as much. He'll be like, I don't know why we're going over here to deal with this. Venezuela has huge amounts of resources there. We should just go into Venezuela. Right? So it's not that Donald Trump doesn't want to do war, it's that his perception of war is different than his contemporaries. That his perception of what should and should not be done is simply different than his contemporaries. And I think his contemporaries are kind of caught in the old Cold War thinking, right? Whereas Donald Trump is thinking just strictly along resources. And so I think you're going to see more conversation about the Arctic. I think you're going to see more conversation about, again, Venezuela. I think you're going to see more conversation about those sorts of things. I think if Canada was smart, we would be kind of reaching across and saying to Russia, hey, Russia, maybe we should actually try to smooth things over, right? But it's so tough to smooth things over when you have such a belligerent actor in the conversation. So I think that the United States is doing a big power grab. There's going to be a big consolidation of power. They're not afraid of using military force. They're not afraid of using military might. Like, and it all continues on, right? And all of like this to me is what makes, I know that we're like pivoting back around to Luigi Mangione, right? But this story, this moment in American history, it contains all of this like dry wood, right? It contains all of this anxiety and all of this ire and all of this hatred towards this system that continuously generates war and continuously generates poverty and death around it. And people are looking to someone like Luigi Mangione and saying, yeah, good for him, because he's somebody who actually fought back. He's somebody who actually like what's so funny to me about this guy is that like this is the natural result of like the Shapiro Peterson perspective, right? Take matters into your own hands. Take responsibility for your own life, right? Go slay dragons, right? It's just not, they're just so detached and dim-witted that they don't actually perceive how a young person might actually interpret that advice and say to themselves, oh, go slay dragons. You mean like a sociopathic mass murderer like Brian Thompson, right? That's what we're talking about, right? Like, if you're under the age of 30, I have no idea how you're not looking out into the world, looking out into the society, the American society, and recognizing like, oh shit, like we're governed by a psychopathic group of people who are converting our labor into genocide, mass murder, and atrocities everywhere they go. I just don't. What other interpretation of the world can you have? Right? Like, what other interpretation of American society can there actually be outside of this, like, fanciful religious ideology? Nilo writes, I remember reading somewhere that counterintuitively, the anthro warming is temporarily causing more icebergs in the Northern Passage, which is actually shortening the seasonal window. That's getting into some specific stuff. Look, heat goes up. Like, maybe there'll be these little moments of this and that and the other thing, but the heat goes up, we're fucked up. Yeah, eventually there will be basically no icebergs. Yeah. And of course, the issue of like those sorts of observations being put forward is that it allows the reactionary right to be like, well, more icebergs. You said there would be less. Climate change, what a hoax. Baldy McNosehair writes, also, how is it legal for Elon to donate money to a party in another country? I don't know the laws in the UK. There's no laws, dude. Like, come on. If you guys glom on to anything that I say, right? If you guys attach to anything that I say, if you carry into the world anything that comes out of my mouth, I hope that it is this. There are no laws. Like, there are no laws. The laws are just threats. That's all they are. They don't exist in a real, tangible way. They're certainly not applied equally. And your desire for there to be laws are not laws themselves. That the entire thing is a farce. That no one will ever tell Elon Musk that he can't do something. And then if you go ahead and do it, you'll serve jail time. Right? Like this is the tangible reality we actually live in. This is what it is to be living in a barbarian culture. Like, the choice was socialism and barbarism, right? That's the choice. Socialism versus barbarism. We have chosen barbarism. That's the choice. We are walking into that. Barbarian societies do not have laws. The only laws that actually exist are the laws of the jungle. Right? Might makes right. Who has the most cojones? Who's actually going to pick up a gun and shoot a CEO? Who's actually going to do that? So, like, Elon Musk donating money to some party somewhere, yeah. Like, nobody's going to do anything about that. Because nobody's going to try to wrestle Elon Musk to the mat. Certainly not a lawyer. Right? Certainly not a judge. Like, and the more information we receive about the quote-unquote legal system in the United States, the more obvious it is that it's utterly corrupt. And that there's straight up, like, the Supreme Court is utterly bought. Jahoni says, really worried about the idea that Trump might pardon Derek Chauvin. I mean, if I were him, I'd not do that. Like, I don't know what he gains from doing that. You know? Like, he's already the president. Like, it would just be a kick in the teeth to the society and the culture. But, like, I guess if you're an accelerationist, let's light the thing up, right? Let's light the candle up. Because that's basically what that would do, right? Like Derek Chauvin was straight up, like, even the illegitimate, incredulous legal system was like, yeah, we got to do something about that. We can't just say he did it in the line of duty, right? Like, we have footage, right? Like, we've got footage of this guy. We've got huge, massive protests happening. We've got riots happening. Like, some of those rioters literally took out police departments, if you remember. Right? Like, I remember how epic that was. Some of these guys actually went in and, like, totally decimated police departments. It's crazy. Right? And so after all of that, Donald Trump is going to pardon this guy? Can't help but feel that's a bad idea. Lauren's over on Twitch says, Merry Christmas from Europe. Merry Christmas to you, Lawrence. I hope you're doing well out there in the world. So let's move on to another piece of news. What do I got for you guys? Oh, yeah. This is my favorite, dude. This is absolutely my favorite. Fed report finds 75% of $800 billion paycheck protection program didn't reach employees. Like, one of the things that I think I'm seeing a little bit more of, just a little bit more of, just a little dollop of it, just a tiny, tiny little bit, is more and more people beginning to realize that the Democratic Party is fraudulent, that they have no credibility. And that, like, one of the things that I've been saying, and I mainly say it to sort of stick my finger in people's eyes, but I kind of do believe it, is that Bernie Sanders isn't telling you the truth. Like, Bernie Sanders isn't interested in giving you health care. He's interested in becoming the president. That's all. He's not actually going to actually push through an actual healthcare bill to actually make sure you get actual healthcare. Right? That the power ploy that comes out of the Democrats is to offer you piecemeal reform to a failed system that is in decay, in the hopes that you'll buy into that idea and vote for them, thereby giving them access to power that they didn't previously have. That's the Democratic strategy. Of course, what undercuts this strategy is that when Democrats actually do take power, they, A, don't use it, a la Obama, right? Obama had a majority in the House, the Senate, and the presidency and wasted it. Like, literally just farted around and did nothing with it. And was saying, like, well, we need to reach across the aisle and create a consensus. Like, no, you don't. You literally don't. Like, that's straight up not how politics works. Or they'll pass programs that have, like, lovely flowery names, right? Names that sound really wonderful. Like the pro-union guide to protecting unions 2024, right? Like the helping homeless women and nuns bill of 1992 or something, right? Then you actually open the thing up and take a look at what's inside, and it's literally like, yep, we took as much money as we possibly could from starving children to drop bombs in Afghanistan. Like, that's literally what these bills actually do. And so in this case, you have the Paycheck Protection Program. $800 billion. $800 billion. Almost $1 trillion. 75% of that doesn't go to employees. You know, the people who have paychecks, who you're trying to protect. Study found that taxpayers shelled out $4 for every $1 in wages and benefits received by workers from the Paycheck Protection Program. Like, there comes a point where we get to call these what they actually are, which is a money laundering scheme, right? A handout to business, or a way to just collect taxes from the public to do what? Guess what? Bomb children overseas. That's the Democratic Party. That's what they're interested in. And the next generation of Democrats, your AOCs and all these guys, you can already see they have perfected the art that they'll tell you exactly what you want to hear. They'll be precise, and they'll promise things. And then when they get into power, they'll pass bills that have really great sounding names. And then when you crack them open and actually look at what they do, you're like, oh, this just is a tax that literally is a handout to billionaires. And that was their whole initiative. Oh. Like, my hope with this Luigi Mangione moment is that more and more people begin to recognize and realize the entire system has no credibility. Like, there's no credibility to be had anywhere, at any level. Like, no one's even trying. Which is why you're seeing more of this. Right? Starbucks baristas strike before Christmas has reached hundreds of US stores. You're going to see more and more people launching more and more strikes, because this is the path forward. Because it's the only path that's left for the average citizen. Right? That we take strike actions and we hope that these are responded to. Because if it's not this, it is this, right? If it's not respond to strikes and respond to unions, then it is respond to bullets. Like that's something that's been understood in American politics since before Kennedy. But Kennedy said it probably the best, right? Those who make, what was it, peaceful reform impossible make revolution inevitable. And I've seen articulations of this, right? Those who made Bernie Sanders impossible made Luigi Mangione inevitable. And if we don't actually come to our senses, and we're not going to, because that's not the trajectory of the decline of empire, then the result is going to be violence. Violence on a pretty significant and major scale. Like, all of the actions that the empire has taken in the Middle East, it will absolutely do to itself. It will absolutely turn around and do that exact same thing to itself. Like, you can see that already happening across Europe. Like when Elon Musk, with his like $1 trillion in wealth, starts talking up how amazing the AfD is in Germany, like that should be considered terrorism. Like we should all look at that and be like, oh, one of the wealthiest people in America is literally promoting a Nazi party. That's a big yikes. It's a big yikes. And so these next 4 years are just going to be absolutely telling, because it's just going to be mask off. It's just going to be mask off. And it's just going to get ridiculous. And we're all just going to get caught up in it or watch it happen. So here's a pivot to a stupid story. You guys know my opinion of cryptocurrencies. I think that these are a waste of everybody's goddamn time. They are, by definition, foolish. And this story sort of captures the stupidity of cryptocurrencies. Illegal cryptocurrency mining likely behind Iran's rolling blackouts. Illegal cryptocurrency mining has emerged as a significant contributor to the major power outages experienced in Iran's capital city, Tehran, and neighboring provinces over October and November. While authorities listed several causes for the rolling blackouts, illegal crypto mining was found to be one of the biggest causes of Iran's power crisis. Iran's capital city, Tehran, and its neighboring provinces faced a major power crisis in October and November, with electricity cuts disrupting people's lives and businesses. While several factors are likely involved in the disruptions, illegal cryptocurrency mining has been named a major contributing factor. Dude, how dystopian and cyberpunk is that? That, like, there are people in Iran who are, like, illegally mining crypto. And, like, anytime anybody describes to me, like, what is mining crypto? Like, what is that? Right? So what it is, you take your computer and you set it to, like, a program that is quote-unquote mining crypto. And that connects to, like, the crypto server. But it's, like, literally just a measurement of waste. Like, that's what cryptocurrency is. That it is almost exclusively a measurement of waste. Because that's what crypto is. You're taking non-renewable resources, like oil or biofuel, wood, and you're burning it so that you can have a little, like, wheel turn, right? Little hamster in a wheel goes like, and then depending on how many times that wheel spins, it spits out a bit or a Dogecoin or whatever nonsense term you want to use to describe these things. And then that has value associated to it based on what? Based on how much waste you used to produce it. We burnt down a forest to get 1 million bits of cryptocurrency. That's a good thing for us to have. Nilo writes, this crypto rolling blackouts problem is a worldwide problem, basically, and has been going on for a while now. This article made me do a bit of a deep dive. Yeah. No, I mean, China banned cryptocurrency for exactly this reason. Yeah. All the communist countries and more seem to have been targeted. Oh, yeah. Like, if I were the CIA, I would absolutely be like, yeah, just crypto mining, like burning resources, right? Because that's all it is. It doesn't produce anything of value. And near as I can tell, cryptocurrency is mainly just used to like exchange slaves between like psychopaths, basically. Seems to be its primary purpose. Like, what else would you use it for? Like, the more you actually think about cryptocurrency and the more you actually think of like what would this be useful for, right? Like, it's obviously a tool for sex traffickers and drug runners. Like, that's its primary purpose, if it has any purpose at all. So that Jeff Bezos can trade a sex slave with Matt Gaetz. And they can have like a measurement of that. And they can keep track of that without actually writing down anywhere, I gave you Vanessa. No, this is a plague. Like, cryptocurrency is just a plague. Like, it's just this absolute disaster that we have inflicted upon ourselves. And it's just waste and garbage and trash. And now we're doing it to such a level that it's actually making life harder for people. Like, what's the actual benefit of this stuff? Because anytime you actually talk to a crypto bro about it, they get really abstract about it. It's like, okay, cool, bro. Like, what is it for? Like, what does it do? It's like, no, the blockchain, bro. Like, it actually, like, okay, well, what's it do? Like, what can I buy with it? And the answer is fucking nothing. Unless you're talking to Jeff Bezos. And then probably sex slaves. Venezuela is the first country to lose all of its glaciers due to climate change. According to recent news, Venezuela has achieved a somber turning point in the fight against climate change. I mean, what fight? Like, are we fighting? Like, what fight are you even talking about? The disappearance of its final glacier, which places it as the first country to experience the total melting of all of its ice sheets. Venezuela was home to 6 glaciers that have covered an astonishing 1,000 square kilometers in 1910. These have now diminished to little more than ice shards that don't qualify as glaciers anymore. By 2011, just the Humboldt Glacier, also called La Corona, remained in the Sierra Nevada National Park, fighting for survival after 5 of Venezuela's glaciers disappeared. However, even this icy monument has shrunk so much that its original definition has been altered to include an ice field. Professor Julio Cesar Contento at the University of Andrés declared, "There are no longer any glaciers in Venezuela." He bemoaned much more the fact that what's left is only 0.4% of what it was. La Corona's current extent is less than 0.02 square kilometers, significantly smaller than the 0.1 square kilometers minimal size criterion for glacier classification. At its peak, La Corona covered 4.5 square kilometers. The glacial coverage of Venezuela decreased by an astounding 98% between 1953 and 2019, according to research done over the last 5 years. After 1998, the rate of ice loss increased dramatically, peaking in 2016 at almost 17% annually. This is why I try to stay away from climate change news, dude. Like, climate change news is just like, and we're not doing anything about it. Like, that's the part about it that I think is going to be so baffling for people in the future. They're just going to be like, oh, you did nothing. Like, you did fucking nothing about it. You literally, like, watched it happen. Year over year over year. You were measuring it. There were people who were, like, putting up big red flashing flags about it. It's this story that makes it so difficult for me to take the West seriously. You know? Every so often, I do get that sense of self doubt. You know? I think to myself, like, oh, maybe I should have gotten this job or done this profession or done this kind of thing, so on and so forth. And then I just start reading up on climate change, and I'm like, nope. This is a clown shoes society full of clown shoes people doing clown shoes shit. Like, how do we take ourselves seriously? How can we be taken seriously? And then when I run into the people who do take themselves seriously, it's just like, what a clown you are. Like, you're straight up like running as hard as you can into a brick wall. And running us all into just this enormous brick wall that is absolutely going to be the universe just being like, nope. Like, what it feels like is it feels like the universe has put up like a check and has put up a checkpoint and is saying, okay, only intelligent life may pass this line. If you would like to continue the game of being a species, if you would like to continue this game towards the goal of becoming an advanced intelligence as a people, here's a checkpoint. You have to meet this threshold. Can you maintain the integrity of your own ecosystem? If yes, off you go. You get to be an intelligent, advanced. You get to be an advanced intelligence. You get to continue exploring more advanced territory. If no, well, then the universe will chew you up. Failed experiment. Right? Failed experiment number 53828984883. Right? Just another failure. That's fine. That's the whole process of evolution. Right? The whole process of evolution is just a series of divergence and a series of extinctions. And here we are coming up to like a pretty big threshold. Can we make sure that we can keep breathing the air? Trotskyist cat girl over on Twitch. What are we talking about right now? Climate change. Although Bread Bunny wants to change the subject, which I'm somewhat grateful for. Get me out of this climate change ridiculous. Is there anything more depressing than the climate change conversation? I don't think so. Bread Bunny says, so Trump wants to take over Canada? Lamau, what do you think that will look like? Surely we'll just give in. I don't know. Like, I feel like to me, it's all just kind of like a bunch of bluster, mainly because there's no point. Like, Canada has already given in to the United States. Like we have maintained our sovereignty insofar as we are technically allowed to like make our own laws. But like we're totally economically dominated. Like we're utterly economically dominated. And that's all really America cares about. Like America doesn't actually care if we are technically integrated into the systems, mainly because Americans don't really care about their own systems, right? Like if Donald Trump basically just says Canada is the 51st state and says that Justin Trudeau is the governor and just acts that way, what are we supposed to do about it? Like, we have no recourse. There's nothing we can do about it. And so I don't know that, like, why even negotiate? You know? Like, why even negotiate? Like, if the United States just acts that way, right, and then expects us to go along with it, I guess the answer is, are we just going to go along with it? And, like, or the question is, are we just going to go along with it? And the answer to that question is we always have, right? Like, we always have. Like, certainly within living memory, right? Like, that's the whole neoliberal era, is just Canada kind of going along with it. Like, and getting involved in NAFTA and getting involved in all this stuff. So, will Canada give in? We already have. Like, we'll be able to pass certain legislation, right? Like the Broadcasting Act, and like we have to maintain the Canadian culture and all this, and we'll have our kind of own independent systems to deal with things internally and domestically, sure. But like, if America says do this, we're going to do it. Like, we're not going to not. Because America can just crush us, right? And not militarily, like economically. Like we can just get rolled over. And like, for sure. We have a population of like 40 million. America's got a population of like 330 million. Like, it's not close. And like, yeah, I mean, like, America will just be like, yeah, cool. Like, you have your flag. Like, every state has a flag, right? Like, ours is going to be a maple leaf. And that's all there is to it. Like, can you imagine if the United States actually did do some kind of military engagement with Canada? Like, wouldn't put it past them. Like, as we enter this, like, barbarian phase, and as the empire begins to decay and as it begins to lose colonies, right, as Africa stops, as the decolonization process begins, right, like, the United States is already talking about doing like what they call a soft invasion into Mexico, right? It's already talking about like it's already calling Canada the 51st state. Like, I feel like there's a lot of consolidation happening in the minds of the American populace, in the minds of the American ruling class, that they've got to shore up their borders, and there's a very protectionist attitude, what you might call a isolationist, right? But it isn't an isolationist attitude, right? Like, it gets described as isolationist, but it's actually protectionist, because all of its decisions over the last 60 years are finally coming home to roost, right? Like, at the end of the Cold War, America had a real opportunity. It had a huge opportunity to build itself and consolidate itself, and to really actually be the leader of the country, of the world. It was like the front runner. It was untouched by World War II. It was mainly untouched by all of the conflict around the world. And they could have taken that advantage and funneled it into like arts, sciences, exploration, discovery, right? Instead, what did they funnel it all into? Just war. Just war. Just war and death and destruction for like 60 years. And it's gone nowhere. It's done nothing. And now all of those bad decisions are coming home to roost. And so America is finding it needs to put itself into a protectionist position. It's got to protect its own interests. And so the next 10, 20 years are going to be about America positioning itself so that it can be like this libertarian idea, right? Like so it can be independent. Right? And then, of course, its goal is to gain independence, energy independence, resource independence, so that it can go to war again. Because that's all America is. It's just a big, giant war machine. That's all it wants to do. It doesn't actually want to do anything else. Bread Bunny says, so it could be a mislead, this plus him being so quiet about policy and approach. Do you think he's actually planning something? No, I think he's just full of bluster. Like, I think that he's a bully that understands that, like, if you threaten to do something, you can get something from people, right? Like, a good way to get somebody to give you their wallet is to approach them with a stick saying you're going to hit them, right? Like, if you want to shake somebody down, right? If you want to, quote-unquote, negotiate a better deal for America, if you want to, quote-unquote, put America first, well, a real good way to do that is to approach your neighboring countries with big sticks saying, do what we want or we'll beat the shit out of you. Right? We'll slap tariffs on you. We'll do all kinds of stuff to you. And that leads to concessions, especially if you have weak leaders like Justin Trudeau, right? Or Pierre Poilievre, right? If you just have weak leaders who are really just empty haircuts, who don't really actually stand for anything, they'll just kowtow and bend the knee, right? And so Trump, I think that's basically what Trump is doing, right? Like Trump is basically positioning himself as this big giant bully because he wants to shake these countries down, and he wants them to make promises and make concessions. That's what I think he's doing. And, like, I think it'll work, by the way. Like, one of the things that I think Trump really understands is that I think he understands what the political system looks like on the global level in reality. Like, I don't think there is abstraction in his mind, right? Like, he doesn't care about international agreements. He doesn't care about the history. He doesn't have loyalty. He doesn't have an understanding of history. He doesn't have any of that. That in his view, he just looks at the map that I'm looking at right now and says, how do we get what we need? What do we need? This is what we need. Where is that in the world? Okay, let's get it. And that's it. Then he shows up at that place and says, give us this thing. And if they say no, then he's going to do bad things to them. And he's very upfront about it, right? Like, he's not being coy. That I think is the thing. And of course, it's stupid. Like, it's a stupid, dumb way to it's a stupid, dumb way to think about politics and think about the international community and think about these things because it's self-defeating. Like, this story of the United States leaning on Canada and leaning on Mexico and leaning on Greenland and like and threatening tariffs on its own allies. Like, if you're anyone in the global south, right? Like, if you're China, Russia, Kazakhstan, India, Iran, Thailand, Chad, Sudan, Egypt, the DRC, like, if you're any of these places, like Brazil, you're looking at Donald Trump and you're going like, oh fuck, like, we cannot trust America. Like, there's no loyalty there. Everything is just commodification. Every conversation is transactional. The only reason Americans are talking to you is to get something from you. And they literally do not care. Like, I think one of the things that has taken people a moment to recognize as true is that, like, America doesn't care if they've had a 50, 60, 70, 100-year relationship with you. They don't care. It doesn't matter to them at all. We've had good relations with this country they don't give a fuck even a little. They care about getting the win today, right now. You have something they want, give it to us. You're not going to give it to us, we're going to slap a 50% tariff on you. Give it to us. But we've had this long, we can negotiate, can't this be a win-win? No. America first, give us what we want. I don't give a shit if we were allies in World War II. I don't give a fuck. Give me what I want. That's the American attitude. And it's self-defeating. It's going to destroy them. Because more and more people and more countries, including countries that are their allies, by the way, like including countries that like I think about like France. Like France is about to hit a big economic wall because it's losing a lot of its colonies, right? Like the thing that has kept France going economically for the longest time is that it's had all these colonies in Africa. It's just extracting resources and extracting wealth from Africa since the colonial period. And it's ending. Trotsky's Cat Girl says, I mean, Canada is run by sentient beings. It's not like it's being forced, like, yeah, economics, but at some point, it does fall to them to also... Fun fact, as recently as the 60s, I believe, we had a military invasion plan for you. Yeah, but, I mean, I just think that the leadership across Canada is essentially empty suits. Like, it's just essentially yes men. Like, there's no spine there. There's no one is actually going to do anything to prevent the oligarchy from doing what the oligarchy wants to do. Like who? Like that the economic system of capitalism is just going to push Canada around. And Canada is going to grumble and be like, but then we'll do exactly what we're told to do. Just like we always have. Like, Trump's not wrong. Like, Canada is the 51st state. Like, we do what we're told. And the exchange seems to be we get to call ourselves something other. At least we're not Americans. Okay, cool. Nilo says, I think U.S. is stretched too thin to annex Canada, not without giving up conflicts abroad, which would speed up the hegemony collapse. Yeah, I just don't think that's what it's about. It's not about a serious annexation. Like, it's just about putting us in our place. Like, that's it. It's just about letting us know that we are not, like, our sovereignty isn't important. Right? I think that's just what it really comes down to. That, like, Donald Trump is basically laying it out. That your sovereignty doesn't matter. What we want matters. It matters more than your sovereignty, for sure. Long Defiant writes, I used ChatGPT the other day to lay out a basic plan for international community. Members would only have to work 20 to 30 hours per year to grow their own food. Independence from capitalism for the win. Yeah. No, dude, like, we've created a system that is producing abundance. Like, that's what makes this so frustrating. That's what makes this whole thing so frustrating. That we've created overwhelming abundance. Right? And instead of saying, oh man, cool, like, we've created abundance. Like, the problem is not technical any longer. Right? Like, it used to be that the problem was technical. Oh, we got all these people. We got to feed all these people. We have to house all these people. We got to clothe all these people. We got to do something about that. Right? What does that look like? How do you do that? What can we industrialize it? Can we create a big system? How do we do it? How do we do it? How do we do it? Well, we know how to do it. We have it. We've done it. We could absolutely feed everybody. We could absolutely clothe everybody. We could absolutely do it. Right? It's not a technical issue. It's at this point it is purely political. It is just that we have a prevailing religious ideology that calls itself capitalism, and that religious ideology has overwhelmed the society. And that religious ideology, the religious ideology of capitalism, I have encapsulated as the worship of money, the worship of the self, and the worship of chaos. That just this death cult, this just absolutely bleak, nihilistic death cult, this ethos has seized control of the imagination of America. And you can see it nakedly portrayed. Like, we literally just went through like a decade of apocalypse movies. Like straight up, what are these apocalypse movies if not the consciousness of America recognizing its victory? That it is telling itself the death cult wins. That this nihilistic, bleak, capitalistic worldview is victorious. Like, I remember when I was a kid, there were stories of the future that actually had hope to them. That there was an idea that we would actually do great and grand things, and that we would figure this out. And that we would say to one another, yeah, we don't need to prove that we deserve to have food and shelter. We don't need to prove that we deserve to have access to healthcare. Right? Prove to who? Why? Like, why is it more important that I prove to some dweeby capitalist that I deserve to have food and shelter instead of creation itself? Like, why does Elon Musk matter more than God? I just don't know that I can take these positions seriously, and yet this is the death cult that we live in. And that fundamentally, like, we discuss, as Marxists, we discuss capitalism from a scientific perspective, right? The private ownership of the means of production, the alienation of the worker from the means of production, all of that kind of stuff. But we very rarely have the more serious, like, no, I shouldn't say more serious, but the serious conversation that the adherents to the system of capital don't view it that way. They don't look at capitalism as Marxists look at capitalism. That their view of capitalism is akin to a religious ideology. And that fascism is actually very theocratic in its worldview, because it isn't rooted in reality. And its ethos is extremely basic, right? Might makes right. Do it yourself. No one owes you anything. That the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, right? These sort of trite phrases that we've come to just accept, but these are expressions of the death cult. And we can call it a death cult because it is on a path of self-annihilation. It is attempting to annihilate itself and everybody in the system. That's the path that it's on. And it's choosing that path, right? It's not blithely or ignorantly walking down that path. It's choosing the path of self-annihilation. And once you're on that path of self-annihilation, I think it's very difficult to get off of it. I think it's going to be very difficult for the Western world and for America to actually come into a position where it stops moving down this path of self-annihilation. Because on some level, I think the Western world craves it. I think they're sort of desiring it, that they want to experience this self-annihilation. Like, we've all known that person. We've all seen that person. Maybe we've been that person in our lives where we're just being self-destructive and we're destroying ourselves because we're unhappy, because we're not pleased with what's going on in our lives. And so we're just trying to destroy that part of us. And we all have this sort of desire to return to the void. And we have all of that. And I think we're just going to watch it happen on a massive societal level. That Donald Trump is like the first blast of the horn, a herald of destruction. The desire for the American people to destroy themselves. And I don't think that America is going to have a come to Jesus moment. I don't think that the Western world is going to have a come to Jesus moment. I think that they are going to walk down the path of annihilation. And because they've done it before. Europe certainly has done it before. And it just seems like there's this dark, like, the reason why I got so upset when I was reading that World Socialist website article is because what larger expression of self-annihilation exists than saying something like, Brian Thompson had a family. The guy was a mass murdering psycho. Killed thousands of people. And we're supposed to feel bad. We're supposed to have a kind of sense of reverence, almost, that he died. No. No thanks. Like, no thanks at all. 0% of that. That I'm supposed to have respect for those who would annihilate others. No. No, I don't think I will. I don't think I will. Well, I think I'm going to close this one down a little early. It is Christmas after all. I hope you are all doing really well out there. These are going to be strange, unusual, and difficult days. That what we've seen. Generation Y Me, thank you for the donation, man. I appreciate that. We have seen that the culture can pivot on a dime. That this situation with Luigi Mangione has shown us that the culture can pivot on a dime. And we live in hope. And I know that I pray that the culture will pivot on a dime and it'll turn against this death cult and burn it to the ground. Always remember, each and every one of you is a quantum being, walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are doing everything they can, spending billions of dollars to try to make sure you never realize it and you just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel. Revolt. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.